Imagine for a moment a world where your deepest, most primal fears aren't just shadows in your mind, but are actively magnified, almost breathed into being by the very walls that surround you.
Yeah, like the house itself is amplifying them.
Exactly. A place where a family's ancient lineage and a decaying mansion are so profoundly intertwined, so utterly inseparable, they literally share a single terrifying fate.
Spooky stuff.
That's the chilling premise we're plunging into today. We're taking a deep dive into Edgar Allan Poe's quintessential tale of psychological dread and Gothic architecture, The Fall of the House of Usher.
A classic for a reason.
Right. And this isn't just a spooky story to tell by a campfire. It's a masterclass in atmosphere, a meticulously crafted exploration of mental illness, hereditary curses, and the unnerving, almost philosophical idea that inanimate objects might possess a dark, influencing power.
That they could actually warp reality itself. It's a heavy concept.
Totally. Our source material for this deep dive is an extensive excerpt from an audiobook transcript, so we can really immerse ourselves directly in Poe's masterful atmospheric prose.
Get right into the language.
Exactly. Our mission is to unearth the most important nuggets of knowledge and insight from this chilling narrative, guiding you through the narrator's unsettling journey and, of course, Roderick Usher's terrifying unraveling.
Yeah, watching him fall apart is intense.
We're going to pull back the veil on the surprising facts and the subtle genius that makes this story resonate, disturb, and captivate us long after the final word. And what makes this particular deep dive so compelling is, I think, the sheer density of detail Poe packs into every description. It creates an atmosphere that isn't merely a backdrop, but almost a living, breathing character in itself.
It really is. The atmosphere is the story in many ways.
It's a testament to his, unparalleled ability to craft an entire world out of words.
Definitely.
So, our journey into this world of dread begins, as all good Gothic tales do, with a sense of profound isolation and foreboding.
Sets the mood immediately.
Poe immediately plunges us into an atmosphere so thick with gloom you can almost feel it pressing in. Our narrator approaches the Usher estate during the whole of a dull, dark, and soundless day in the autumn of the year, when the clouds hung oppressively low in the heavens.
Ugh, you can just picture it. So heavy.
And he's not just taking a leisurely drive, he's passing alone on horseback through a singularly dreary tract of country.
Alone. That's key too.
Right. From this opening, Poe doesn't just describe a scene, he creates an experience, drawing you right into the narrator's solitary, melancholic state. It's almost as if the very air is weighted down with sorrow.
Yeah, and what's truly fascinating here, and far more profound than simple sadness, is how the narrator's reaction goes beyond typical Gothic melancholy.
How so?
Well, he explicitly states it's an insufferable gloom, one that's unrelieved by any of that half-pleasurable because poetic sentiment.
Ah, okay. So it's not that kind of romantic sadness.
No, exactly. This isn't the romantic melancholy we often associate with brooding landscapes. No, this is something deeper, more insidious. He looks upon the mere house, the simple landscape features, the bleak walls, the vacant eye-like windows.
Very like windows, creepy.
Upon a few ranks of sedges and upon a few white trunks of decayed trees with an utter depression of soul. And get this comparison, which I can compare to no earthly sensation more properly than to the after-dream of the reveler upon opium, the bitter lapse into everyday life, the hideous dropping off the veil.
Wow. That's intense. It's not just sad, it's like a soul sickness.
Precisely.
Yeah.
This isn't just picturesque desolation, it's a visceral, profound sickness of the soul. Poe is using what we call pathetic fallacy, where the environment mirrors, and in this case, actively induces an internal, almost physical illness.
And what's remarkable is that he can't even explain why he feels this way, can he? He's asking himself, what was it that so unnerved him?
Right. He finds it a mystery, all insoluble, struggling to grapple with the shadowy fancies.
That's the genius of Poe right there. He immediately taps into that universal human experience of unexplainable dread, that feeling when something is just profoundly wrong, but you can't quite put your finger on it.
Yeah, that ambient anxiety, the terror of the unknown, just amplified.
Exactly.
Absolutely. And this inability to pinpoint the source of his terror is crucial to the story's psychological impact. It frustrates him, right? This vague, encroaching fear.
So what does he do?
He actually tries to rationalize it. He thinks that maybe, a mere different arrangement of the particulars of the scene would be sufficient to modify or perhaps to annihilate its capacity for sorrowful impression.
Like if I just look at it differently, maybe it won't be so bad.
Exactly. So what does he do? He attempts to gain perspective, to break the spell. He reins his horse to the edge of this black and lurid tarn, a small, dark lake right by the house, and he gazes down into its reflection, trying to reframe the scene.
Okay, so he looks into the reflection in the tarn, and what happens? Does it help?
Not at all. It backfires spectacularly. Instead of alleviating his fear, it only deepens it. He observes, with a shudder even more thrilling than before, upon the remodeled and inverted images of the gray sedge and the ghastly tree stems and the vacant and eye-like windows.
Oh, wow. So the reflection is even worse.
Yeah, it's almost as if the reflection doesn't just confirm and intensify the horror, but distorts it further, mirroring a coming madness. It's a moment that asks, what if looking for answers only shows you a more terrifying version of the question?
That's a chilling thought.
Precisely. This is a key psychological insight Poe offers, and it's something, many of us can relate to. He demonstrates what we might call the paradoxical law of terror, where confronting or trying to analyze an ambiguous dread can actually make it worse.
So trying to understand it just feeds it.
Right. The tarn's reflection isn't just a passive mirror. It's an active, distorted reality, a chilling premonition of the madness that will ultimately consume both the house and its inhabitants.
It's like the landscape itself is in on it.
It really is. It's a fundamental Gothic trope where the landscape becomes an active, almost malevolent participant in the unfolding psychological drama, whispering promises of decay and doom. Poe forces us to confront the idea that sometimes the reflection is more terrifying than the thing itself.
Okay, so despite this overwhelming, almost debilitating sense of dread, the narrator pushes on. Why? Why endure such an ordeal?
Well, he's been brought to this desolate place by a very specific and peculiar summons.
Right, the letter from Roderick Usher, his childhood boon companion.
Exactly. But the letter itself, reaching him across a distant part of the country, was apparently wildly important, filled with nervous agitation.
So Roderick wasn't just saying, come visit.
No, not at all. Roderick spoke of acute bodily illness and a mental disorder which oppressed him. He expressed an earnest desire to see the narrator, his best and indeed his only personal friend, hoping for some alleviation of his malady through the cheerfulness of his society.
It sounds like a desperate plea, really, from someone on the edge.
It absolutely is. Clinging to a childhood connection is his last hope. And what's truly telling about this singular summons is that despite their childhood intimacy, the narrator admits he really knew little of my friend.
Wait, really? His best friend?
Apparently.
Yeah.
Roderick's reserve had been always excessive and habitual. So this isn't just a casual invite. It's a frantic cry for help from someone who has actively walled himself off from the world.
That makes the desperation even clearer.
For such a reclusive individual to reach out like that, so agitated, so urgent, it immediately signals a crisis of profound, perhaps unprecedented magnitude. It establishes this dynamic of a deep but distant friendship being suddenly violently pulled into the maw of an inescapable catastrophe.
Hinting that the roots of Roderick's despair run far deeper than just, being sick.
Deeper.
And this crisis, it turns out, isn't just personal to Roderick. It's deeply, terrifyingly rooted in the ancient and peculiar history of the Usher family itself.
Ah, yes, the family history. Crucial.
The narrator describes them as a very ancient family, noted time out of mind for peculiar sensibility of temperament.
That peculiar sensibility, that's putting it mildly.
Right. This sensibility, we learn, manifested in many works of exalted art, munificent yet unobtrusive charity, and a passionate devotion to the intricacies of musical science.
So there's this artistic, almost genius side to them.
Exactly. It adds a layer of tragic grandeur to their impending doom, almost an artistic predisposition to their own destruction, a kind of inherited genius that's twisted into madness.
But the truly unique and frankly disturbing aspect of the Usher lineage is its genetic isolation.
How so? What does he find out?
The narrator discovers the stem of the Usher race had put forth at no period any enduring branch. In other words, that the entire family lay in the direct line of descent and had always, with very trifling and very temporary variation, so lain.
Wait, so no cousins, no aunts or uncles branching off?
Pretty much none. This complete lack of collateral issue, this constant inbreeding through centuries, meant an undeviating transmission from sire to son of the patrimony with the name.
Wow, so the family tree just goes straight up.
Exactly. It never branches out, which Poe implicitly presents as a fundamental biological cause for their peculiar afflictions and their eventual tragic end. It's like a slow, generational self-strangulation, genetically speaking.
Jeez. So This unique, almost unnatural lineage has led to a peculiar linguistic quirk among the locals.
Right. The name itself.
The appellation of the House of Usher, in the minds of the local peasantry, seemed to include both the family and the family mansion.
The name covers both.
Yeah. This isn't just a descriptive name, it's a profound premonition, a statement of their merged identity. The house is the family, and the family is the house.
It's a chilling cultural understanding of their inevitable shared fate. Indeed. And this, for me, is one of Poe's most powerful conceptual leaps. And it raises a fascinating question for you, the listener. What if the very identity of a family became so utterly indistinguishable from their dwelling that the two began to exert a mutual, almost parasitic influence?
Like they're feeding off each other.
Kind of. What possible insidious power might the house, through the long lapse of centuries, have exercised upon the morale, the very spirit, of the Usher family, slowly molding their destinies?
That's unsettling.
Poe is hinting at a deeper, almost supernatural connection here, where the physical structure and the bloodline are two sides of the same decaying conscious coin. It forces us to consider how deeply our environment, especially one we've inhabited for generations, can truly seep into our very being.
Shaping not just our actions, but our very minds.
Precisely.
Okay, so building on that truly unsettling thought, the narrator's sense of unease quickly escalates beyond just, looking at a creepy old house.
It gets worse.
After his disturbing experience with the Tarn's reflection, he feels his superstition rapidly increase, leading to what he calls strange fancy.
Uh-oh.
He begins to really believe that about the whole mansion and domain there hung an atmosphere peculiar to themselves and their immediate vicinity, an atmosphere which had no affinity with the air of heaven.
Not heavenly air, then.
No, but which had reeked up from the decayed trees and the gray wall and the silent Tarn, a pestilent and mystic vapor, dull, sluggish, faintly discernible, and leaden-hued.
A pestilent and mystic vapor. Poe's descriptions are just incredible.
It's no longer just the look of the place. It's an active, oppressive presence, a tangible miasma of dread, he feels.
Right, and this pestilent and mystic vapor is a quintessential example of a Gothic trope. You see this a lot in Gothic literature, where the oppressive environment doesn't just reflect the character's internal turmoil.
It actually affects them.
Yes, it actively influences and intensifies it. The house isn't merely a setting for the horror, it's an active participant, a character in its own right exerting a tangible negative influence.
Like the air itself is toxic.
Exactly. This environmental empathy implies that the very air you breathe within its confines is saturated with the decay and gloom of its inhabitants, literally a living miasma that permeates everything. It's Poe suggesting that evil can be a physical, atmospheric presence.
And physically, the house is a testament to this decay, but in a very strange, almost contradictory way.
How so?
The narrator describes its excessive antiquity, the discoloration of ages, and minute fungi overspread the whole exterior, hanging in a fine, tangled webwork from the eaves. Classic decay.
Right, looks like it's falling apart.
But here's the critical detail. No portion of the masonry had fallen, showing a wild inconsistency between its still perfect adaptation of parts and the crumbling condition of the individual stones.
So it looks rotten, but it's still standing solid.
Exactly. He compares it to old woodwork which has rotted for long years in some neglected vault. It's structurally intact, a facade of endurance, yet visibly rotting, a surface of stability over a core of profound generational corruption.
Wow, that's a perfect visual metaphor for the Usher family itself, isn't it?
Totally. Solid on the outside, rotten within.
That description is incredibly potent. It challenges our very perception of decay. Something can appear solid, yet be utterly rotten inside. But even beyond this overt decay, the narrator's scrutinizing eye discovers something else.
What's that?
A subtle, almost imperceptible detail that is absolutely crucial. A barely perceptible fissure, which, extending from the roof of the building in front, made its way down the wall in a zigzag direction until it became lost in the sullen waters of the Tarn.
A crack. A tiny crack in the wall.
Tiny, yes, but so significant. This fissure is so subtle, so easy to miss, yet it's the literal crack in the foundation that mirrors every psychological fracture within Roderick and every genetic flaw in the Usher lineage.
Oh, okay, so it's symbolic.
Hugely symbolic. Poe is laying the groundwork right there at the start for the eventual spectacular collapse of everything, It challenges our sense of stability. Even what seems enduring is often on the brink of catastrophic failure. It's the ultimate symbol of a doom that's been slowly, invisibly spreading through generations, waiting for the final push.
Wow. Okay, so the narrator finally steals himself and enters the mansion. Does it get any better inside?
Spoilers. Meh.
Right. The Gothic grandeur only heightens his sense of dread. He passes through a Gothic archway and then through many dark and intricate passages, noting the carvings of the ceilings, the somber tapestries of the walls, the ebon blackness of the floors, and the phantasmagoric armorial trophies which rattled as I strode.
All the classic spooky mansion stuff, rattling armor and everything.
Yeah, it's a sensory overload of traditional Gothic elements, yet something feels profoundly different, more oppressive this time.
Exactly. The narrator acknowledges how familiar these elements are from his infancy, how he'd seen them in other old houses, yet he still wondered to find how unfamiliar were the fancies which ordinary images were stirring up.
So even though he's seen it before, this place feels different.
Right. This isn't just standard spooky decor. It's designed to affect the mind, to stir unsettling fancies, suggesting an active, malevolent energy within the house itself. His vague sentiments are heightened, indicating that the house is already exerting its insidious influence on him, just as Roderick claims it has on his family.
It's like a psychological assault, cloaked in familiar grandeur.
Well put.
He's eventually led to Roderick's studio, a room that perfectly encapsulates the mansion's profound gloom and Roderick's own tortured mind. How's it described?
Well, it's bleak. He describes it as very large and lofty, with windows, long, narrow, and pointed, and at so vast a distance from the black oaken floor as to be altogether inaccessible from within.
Inaccessible windows. That's weird.
Yeah. Only feeble gleams of encrimsoned light penetrate, failing to illuminate the remoter angles or the recesses of the vaulted and fretted ceiling.
So it's huge, dark, and you can't even reach the windows. It's a space designed for isolation, for shadows, for a mind to retreat into its own darkness.
This room isn't just decor, it's an active emotional environment, an extension of Roderick's internal landscape. The dark draperies hung upon the walls, the furniture profuse, comfortless, antique, and tattered.
Comfortless. Nice touch.
And despite many books and musical instruments lay scattered about, they failed to give any vitality to the scene.
So even the signs of life, books, and music feel dead there.
Exactly. The narrator feels he breathed an atmosphere of sorrow. An air of stern, deep, and irredeemable gloom hung over and pervaded all. It's not merely poor housekeeping, it's a tangible manifestation of Roderick's internal state, so potent that it deeply affects all who enter.
Poe is showing us how a person's inner world can literally manifest as their external reality. Okay, so we finally meet Roderick. How bad is it?
It's shocking. Roderick Usher himself is a portrait of profound constitutional malady. The narrator is utterly shocked by his appearance, a stark contrast to his boyhood companion.
He doesn't recognize him.
He recognizes him, but he's horrified. He notes, surely man had never before so terribly altered in so brief a period. He describes Roderick's once refined features, his cadaverousness of complexion, an eye large, liquid, and luminous beyond comparison.
Luminous eye. Sounds intense.
Lips somewhat thin and very pallid, but of a surpassingly beautiful curve. A nose of a delicate Hebrew model. A finely molded chin. Hair of a more than web-like softness and tenuity. But these features are now exaggerated into a grotesque caricature.
How so?
A ghastly pallor of the skin, a now miraculous luster of the eye that seems to burn with unnatural intensity, and the wild gossamer texture of his unheated hair.
It's a face ravaged not just by illness, but by internal torment, a living reflection of the decaying house.
Absolutely. The physical deterioration is striking, but it's inextricably intertwined with a deep psychological struggle. The narrator notes Roderick's incoherence and inconsistency stemming from feeble and futile struggles to overcome an habitual trepidancy and excessive nervous agitation.
So he can't even hold a normal conversation.
Right. This isn't just physical illness. It's a profound internal battle against a rapidly encroaching madness, a losing fight for control over his own being. Poe is showing us the external manifestation of internal chaos, a mind literally eating itself alive from the inside out.
And his voice. The description of his voice is profoundly unsettling.
Oh yeah. Poe meticulously details its rapid, horrifying shifts, varied rapidly from a tremulous indecision to that species of energetic concision.
So shaky 1 minute, forceful the next.
Exactly. That abrupt, weighty, unhurried, and hollow-sounding enunciation. That leaden, self-balanced, and perfectly modulated guttural utterance. And then this comparison. which may be observed in the lost drunkard or the irreclaimable eater of opium during the periods of his most intense excitement.
Wow. That's that's vivid. It paints a picture of extreme mental distress and maybe artificial stimulation. A voice that itself is unraveling, mirroring the dissolution of his sanity.
It's the sound of a mind desperately trying to hold itself together, but failing spectacularly. And this chilling vocal portrait leads us directly to the heart of Roderick's self-diagnosis.
What does he think is wrong with him?
He calls it a constitutional and a family evil, a condition he utterly despairs to remedy. Yet in a stark contradiction that speaks volumes about his unraveling mind, he dismisses it as a mere nervous affection that would undoubtedly soon pass off.
So he knows it's serious, maybe inherited, but he's also in denial.
Total denial amidst despair. Its key to understanding is torture. His affliction includes a morbid acuteness of the senses.
What does that mean? Like hypersensitive?
Extremely. The most insipid food was alone endurable. He could wear only garments of certain texture. The odors of all flowers were oppressive. His eyes were tortured by even a faint light. And there were but peculiar sounds, and these from stringed instruments which did not inspire him with horror.
So basically, the entire world is an assault on his senses. Light, sound, smell, touch. Everything hurts him.
Pretty much. Every sensory input, everything that connects him to the outside world, is a source of agony, forcing him into this hermetic, isolated existence.
What truly stands out to me, though, and what Poe articulates with such chilling precision, is the core of Roderick's suffering, an anomalous species of terror.
Yes, that specific phrase.
He states, in a moment that sends shivers down your spine, I shall perish. I must perish in this deplorable folly. Thus, and not otherwise, shall I be lost.
He's resigned to it.
And then he says, I dread in the events of the future, not in themselves, but in their results. I shudder at the thought of any, even the most trivial incident, which may operate upon this intolerable agitation of soul. He has no abhorrence of danger except in its absolute effect in terror.
Right. Think about that for a moment.
Yeah.
He's not afraid of the danger itself, but of the paralyzing, consuming terror the danger produces within him.
He's enslaved by his own fear of fear. It's meta-terror.
It is. This is a crucial distinction and a profound psychological insight from Poe. Roderick isn't just ill. He is enchained by certain superstitious impressions in regard to the dwelling which he tenanted.
Back to the house's influence.
Exactly. He truly believes an influence from the form and substance of his family mansion had obtained over his spirit, explicitly linking the physique of the gray walls and turrets upon the morale of his existence.
So he blames the house for his mental state.
He does. This completes the terrifying circle of influence between the house and its inhabitant. The mental decay and the physical decay are not merely parallels. They're inextricably linked, each feeding the other in a terrifying, self-fulfilling feedback loop. Poe is suggesting that for the Ushers, the house is not just a home, but a conscious, malignant entity that has for centuries molded their destinies and ultimately their destruction. It's a truly symbiotic relationship, but one that is utterly toxic.
Okay, now, in the midst of Roderick's terrifying unraveling, we get this fleeting, almost ghostly glimpse of his sister, Lady Madeline.
Madeline. The mystery woman.
The narrator describes this first encounter as she passes slowly through a remote portion of the apartment, and without having noticed my presence disappeared. She's almost a specter from the very beginning, a silent, ephemeral presence.
Gone before you really register her.
Exactly. It's a fleeting moment, but it sets off a profound unease in the narrator.
Her brief, silent appearance immediately creates an irrational, almost primal dread in him. He describes utter astonishment not unmingled with dread, and yet I found it impossible to account for such feelings. A sensation of stupor oppressed me.
So just seeing her freaks him out, but he doesn't know why.
Right. This immediate, unexplainable reaction foreshadows her profound importance in the story and the unsettling, almost supernatural nature of her existence. She doesn't need to speak, doesn't need to interact. Her mere presence, her fleeting shadow, is enough to cast a pall of deep, irrational fear.
Hinting at a connection to the house's malevolence itself.
Potentially.
Roderick eventually reveals that much of his peculiar gloom can be traced to a more natural and far more palpable origin. What is it?
His sister. He admits it's due to the severe and long-continued illness. Indeed, to the evidently approaching dissolution of a tenderly beloved sister, his sole companion for long years, his last and only relative on Earth.
So he's grieving her anticipated death. That makes sense.
On the surface, yes. Her impending death, he says, with bitterness would leave him the hopeless and the frail, the last of the ancient race of the Ushers.
The end of the line. That's a heavy burden.
Absolutely. And Madeline's illness itself is shrouded in mystery, having long baffled the skill of her physicians.
What are her symptoms?
It's described as a settled apathy, a gradual wasting away of the person, and frequent, although transient, affections of a partially catalytic character.
Catalepsy, like seizures where she seems dead.
Exactly. A death-like trance that mimics actual death. The text also mentions this unusual diagnosis, hear the two.
Hear the two. What does that mean?
Well, it's debated. Some scholars think it might be a typo or a variant for hitherto or heretofore, just meaning up to this point. But regardless, it really underscores how baffling her condition was, suggesting something protracted and unusual that defied medical understanding at the time.
So, a mysterious wasting illness with episodes of apparent death.
Right. She had steadily borne up against the pressure of her malady and had not betaken herself finally to bed, but on the closing in of the evening of my arrival at the house, she succumbed to the prostrating power of the destroyer. That catalytic character is a crucial, terrifying detail.
I have a bad feeling about where this is going.
You should.
Later, when they are preparing to entomb Madeline, or think they are, the narrator notes a startling detail.
What's that?
A striking similitude between the brother and sister now first arrested my attention. He suddenly notices how much they look alike.
Ah, the twin connection. It's a physical echo, a visual testament to their deeper, almost uncanny bond.
And Roger confirms it, right?
Yes. Divining the narrator's thoughts, he murmurs words that confirm this profound bond. They were twins, and that sympathies of a scarcely intelligible nature had always existed between them.
Scarcely intelligible sympathies. That sounds intense. Like a psychic link.
Something like that. This deep, unseen connection, almost a shared soul or a linked psychic identity, is a key element to understanding their intertwined fates. It suggests that her death isn't merely the loss of a loved one for Roderick, but a profound rupture within his own being.
Unleashing his final, catastrophic descent into madness.
Exactly. They are, in a very real, almost metaphysical sense, two halves of a single doomed entity, bound together even beyond the grave.
Okay, so Roderick's condition is worsening dramatically. The narrator, being the good friend he is, tries to help, right?
He does. Desperate, he tries everything he can think of to alleviate his friend's melancholy. He attempts to engage him by painting, reading aloud, and listening to wild improvisations of his speaking guitar.
Trying to bring some light, some normalcy back into the suffocating gloom.
A noble effort. But he soon reaches a chilling conclusion. The more bitterly did I perceive the futility of all attempted cheering of a mind from which darkness, as if an inherent positive quality, poured forth upon all objects of the moral and physical universe in one unceasing radiation of gloom.
Wow, so it's not external gloom affecting Roderick, it's an internal darkness radiating outward.
Precisely. It's inherent, like a positive quality, but it's darkness. It colors and corrupts everything around him. He's beyond saving by simple distractions or companionship. His mind has become a black hole, drawing all light into itself.
And his art reflects this, doesn't it? Especially his paintings.
Oh, absolutely. They serve as a powerful, unsettling mirror to his deteriorating mind. His canvases, as the narrator describes, convey an excited and highly distempered ideality through a sulphurous luster, creating vaguenesses at which I shuddered, the more thrillingly because I shuddered knowing not why.
Shuddering without knowing why. That's pure Poe.
Isn't it? His designs had utter simplicity, a stark nakedness that arrested and overawed attention. The narrator believes, with a chilling certainty, if ever mortal painted an idea, that mortal was Roderick Usher.
It's art stripped bare, revealing pure, distilled terror, the unvarnished landscape of his breaking mind.
Exactly. And one specific painting is particularly chilling and serves as profound foreshadowing for the story's climax.
Which one is that?
The narrator describes a small picture presented the interior of an immensely long and rectangular vault or tunnel with low walls, smooth, white, and without interruption or device.
Okay, your white tunnel.
It conveys exceeding depth below the surface of the earth with no outlet and no torch or other artificial source of light.
Trapped underground, no light, no exit, claustrophobic.
Extremely. Yet, paradoxically, a flood of intense rays rolled throughout and bathed the whole in a ghastly and inappropriate splendor.
Ghastly and inappropriate splendor. How can intense light be inappropriate?
That's the horror of it. This isn't just a painting. It's a window into Roderick's deepest subconscious fears of being trapped, isolated, yet illuminated by a terrifying, unnatural light, a premonition of Madeline's fate and perhaps his own. It's a terrifying fusion of claustrophobia and unwanted revelation.
Okay, that is genuinely creepy. He also expresses himself through music, right? With his guitar.
Yes, specifically his fervid facility of his impromptus on the guitar, often accompanied by rhymed verbal improvisations.
Like freestyle rapping, but gothic.
Sort of. This brings us to a crucial piece of the story, a chilling poem titled The Haunted Palace, which he sings to the narrator.
The Haunted Palace. Tell us about it.
This poem is a profound allegorical self-portrait of Roderick's own mind and the Usher lineage. The first 4 stanzas describe a fair and stately radiant palace reared its head, existing in the monarch thought's dominion, and by good angels tenanted.
Sounds nice. A healthy mind ruled by thought.
Exactly. Its banners were yellow, glorious, golden. Its luminous windows saw spirits moving musically, and its door, with pearl and ruby glowing, allowed a troop of echoes whose sweet duty was but to sing the wit and wisdom of their king.
So it represents a mind in its prime, vibrant, intellectual, full of creativity and balance, the former glory of Roderick's reason, and perhaps the Usher family itself.
Precisely. However, the poem then shifts dramatically in stanzas 5 and 6, detailing the palace's ruin.
Here we go.
Evil things in robes of sorrow assailed the monarch's high estate. The former glory is but a dim remembered story of the old time entombed. Entombed. Ominous word choice.
Very. Now, travelers, through the red-lit windows, see vast forms that move fantastically to a discordant melody, and like a rapid, ghastly river through the pale door, a hideous throng rush out forever and laugh but smile no more.
Yikes. That's a stark, chilling depiction of a descent from brilliance into grotesque madness, from harmony to discord, from reason to utter chaos, the mind's final, devastating collapse.
And the narrator gets it. Yeah, the narrator perceives, quite rightly, for the first time a full consciousness on the part of Usher, of the tottering of his lofty reason upon her throne. The poem isn't just a performance, it's a chilling, self-aware metaphor for Roderick's own deteriorating mental state.
A desperate cry for help disguises art. He knows what's happening to him, and he's painting it in verse.
Absolutely.
And this ballad, this public confession of his encroaching madness, naturally leads them to discuss Roderick's earlier unsettling opinion.
About the sentience of vegetables.
Right. That of the sentience of all vegetable things. But, as Poe tells us, in his disordered fancy, the idea had assumed a more daring character than trespassed under certain conditions upon the kingdom of inorganization.
Wait, so he didn't just think plants were alive, he thought? Rocks were too. Inanimate objects.
Under certain conditions, yes. Roderick truly believed that all living things, and even inanimate objects like the very stones of his house, possessed a form of consciousness, a sentience.
Okay, that's out there.
He was convinced the method of collocation of the house's gray stones, the fungi, and the decayed trees, combined with its long, undisturbed endurance, created its own atmosphere, and its silent, yet importunate and terrible influence, which for centuries had molded the destinies of his family.
So the specific way the house was built and how long it stood there gave it consciousness and power over them.
That's his theory. This is where the house and its inhabitants become terrifyingly one, the physical structure actively influencing the mental state across generations, becoming a co-conspirator in their doom. It's a terrifying idea that a place can be inherently evil and that evil is transferable.
Chilling. And as if on cue for this tragic trajectory that Roderick so clearly articulates in his poem, Madeline dies.
Well, supposedly. Roderick abruptly informs the narrator that the Lady Madeline was no more.
Just like that. She's dead.
Pretty much. A sudden, stark announcement, almost delivered as if it's an expected, inevitable conclusion to their conversation about decay and influence.
And then he proposes something weird, doesn't he?
Very weird. What follows is Roderick's singular proceeding. His intention to preserve her corpse for a fortnight, 2 weeks, previously to its final interment in one of the vaults within the building.
Preserve her body for 2 weeks inside the house. Why?
His stated reasons are the unusual character of the malady of the deceased, certain obtrusive and eager inquiries on the part of her medical men, and the remote and exposed situation of the burial ground of the family.
Okay, so her weird illness, nosy doctors, and the graveyard being far away, those almost sound reasonable.
Almost. On the surface, they sound like rational precautions to protect the body and the family's privacy. But for you, the listener, the underlying dread and desperation should be palpable. He's buying time, though, for what sinister purpose we don't yet explicitly know. It's a calculated act driven by fear, guilt, or something far more twisted.
And the narrator, he goes along with it.
He does. Despite his growing unease and the sheer strangeness of the situation, he finds himself drawn into this macabre plan. He says he had no desire to oppose what I regarded as at best, but a harmless and by no means an unnatural precaution.
A harmless precaution, burying someone in the basement for 2 weeks.
Well, he also mentions recalling the sinister countenance of the person whom I met upon the staircase, whom he believes to be the family physician. This doctor, with his low cunning and perplexity, had clearly raised suspicion for Roderick, suggesting an external threat or intrusion that Roderick felt compelled to guard against.
So maybe Roderick was paranoid about the doctor, adding another layer to his reasoning, however flawed.
Possibly. So together they carry Madeline's body to the vault.
And this vault, it's not just any old cellar, is it?
No, definitely not. It's described as small, damp, and entirely without means of admission for light, lying at great depth immediately beneath that portion of the building in which was my own sleeping apartment.
Oh, great. So the narrator is sleeping right above this tomb.
Right. The physical proximity of this place of horror to the narrator's sleeping quarters only intensifies the psychological terror, forcing him to literally sleep above the consequences of their actions.
And the history and construction of this vault are important too, you said.
Absolutely critical details, chosen by Poe with meticulous care. It had been used in remote, feudal times for the worst purposes of a dungeon keep, and in later days as a place of deposit for powder. Gunpowder, presumably.
So dungeon and explosive storage. Nice.
And its critical construction details include its floor and the whole interior of a long archway were carefully sheathed with copper. The door of massive iron had been also similarly protected, and its immense weight caused unusually sharp grating sound as it moved upon its hinges.
Copper-lined, massive iron door. Sounds like they really didn't want anyone getting in or out.
Precisely. Every aspect of this place is designed for security and permanence, for trapping whatever is inside. It's a tomb built to last, and to keep its contents from ever escaping.
And when they put her in the coffin, what does the narrator notice?
When they finally look upon Madeline in the coffin, the final, chilling piece of the puzzle falls into place, even if the narrator doesn't fully grasp it yet. The disease had left as usual. The mockery of a faint blush upon the bosom and the face, and that suspiciously lingering smile upon the lip, which is so terrible in death.
A blush and a smile on a corpse. Wait.
Exactly. This is a clear, undeniable sign of her catalepsy, confirming that she was not truly dead, but in a state of suspended animation.
Oh my God.
That a singular proceeding, that fortnight of delay, was in fact an act of living entombment. Roderick, in his madness and perhaps his guilt, knows this, or at least deeply suspects it.
He buried her alive.
Or allowed her to be buried alive, and this detail transforms the entire narrative from a story of mourning into one of horrific, premeditated cruelty or desperate, misguided preservation. Either way, it's monstrous.
Okay, my skin is crawling now. After Madeline's death and entombment, how does Roderick change? Does he seem relieved?
Relieved. Not even slightly. He undergoes an even more profound and rapid alteration. His ordinary manner had vanished. His ordinary occupations were neglected or forgotten.
He just stops functioning.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
His pallor took a more ghastly hue. The luminousness of his eye had utterly gone out, and his voice had a tremulous quaver, as if of extreme terror. He roamed from chamber to chamber with hurried, unequal, and objectless step.
He's a broken man, consumed by what he has done or what he suspects he has done, haunted by an invisible tormentor.
Indeed. His unceasingly agitated mind was laboring with some oppressive secret to divulge which he struggled for the necessary courage.
The secret being, I buried my sister alive.
Seems likely. He would gaze upon vacancy for long hours in an attitude of the profoundest attention, as if listening to some imaginary sound.
Listening. Listening for what, oh God?
Right. This intense, tortured anticipation, this constant vigil, reveals that he knows, or at least deeply fears, the terrifying truth of Madeline's condition and the horrific consequences of their actions. He's not just grieving, he's waiting for the inevitable, for the horror he helped unleash to return and claim him.
It's a portrait of absolute, exquisite torment. He's waiting for her to come back.
It seems that way.
And what's truly terrifying is how Roderick's condition begins to infect the narrator, our lens, into this madness.
Yes, the contagion spreads.
He states, quite chillingly, his condition terrified, that it infected me. I felt creeping upon me by slow yet certain degrees the wild influences of his own fantastic yet impressive superstitions.
The narrator is no longer just an objective observer. He's becoming a participant in the Usher madness, his own sanity eroding under the weight of the houses and Roderick's pervasive gloom.
The pestilent vapor is indeed taking its toll on him, too. He's catching the crazy.
It seems so. This infection culminates on the night of the 7th or 8th day after the placing of the Lady Madeline within the dungeon.
So about a week later, what happens?
The narrator experiences an incubus of utterly causeless alarm, a sensation of being oppressed by a malicious entity in his sleep, struggling amidst the dark and tattered draperies, tortured into motion by the breath of a rising tempest.
A storm is brewing outside, too. Perfect.
Oh, yeah. He then begins to hear low and indefinite sounds. The house, the raging storm outside, Roderick's madness, and the terrifying secret beneath the floor, it's all converging on him, pushing him to the brink of his own sanity.
It's a symphony of encroaching terror.
Beautifully put.
Suddenly, in the midst of this raging storm and the narrator's escalating terror, Roderick appears in his room.
Unannounced, of course.
How does he look?
He's cadaverously wan, but with a species of mad hilarity in his eyes, and evidently restrained hysteria in his whole demeanor.
Mad hilarious, like he's laughing inappropriately.
Exactly. That terrifying, unhinged kind of energy. The narrator, desperate for any relief from his solitude and burgeoning fear, actually welcomes his presence, unaware that this meeting will bring about the final catastrophic revelation.
Oh, poor guy. He thinks Roderick is company, but he's really the harbinger of doom.
Pretty much. Roderick, in a frantic, almost delirious state, throws open the casement window to the tempestuous yet sternly beautiful night.
Lets the storm in.
And they witness a whirlwind and exceeding density of the clouds. But what's most unsettling, most unnatural, is the undersurfaces of the huge masses of agitated vapor, as well as all terrestrial objects immediately around us, were glowing in the unnatural light of a faintly luminous and distinctly visible gaseous exhalation which hung about and enshrouded the mansion.
Wait, the air around the house is glowing like that pestilent vapor, but visible now.
Exactly. The narrator tries, fruitlessly, to rationalize it as merely electrical phenomena or rank miasma of the tarn, but the unearthly glow is undeniable. It's the sentient house itself, breathing out its horror, literally glowing with the malevolence it has absorbed and fostered for centuries.
It's a terrifying fusion of the supernatural and the psychological. Okay, this is getting intense.
We're nearing the climax now.
Here's where Poe truly builds the suspense to an almost unbearable degree, using a literary technique that's both brilliant and utterly chilling. To soothe Roderick, or perhaps to soothe himself, the narrator begins to read from an antique volume.
Right. The Mad Tryst of Sir Lancelot Canning.
A book he admits he chose more in sad jest than in earnest. It's a distraction, yes, but one that will paradoxically accelerate their doom. What begins as a moment of solace quickly becomes a horrifying echo of their reality.
The parallels begin almost immediately with an unnerving, almost supernatural precision. The narrator reads of Ethelred, the hero of the tale, making room in the plankings of the door for his gauntleted hand. He's so cracked and ripped and tore all asunder that the noise of the dry and hollow-sounding wood alarmed and reverberated throughout the forest.
Okay, so the hero is breaking down a door in the story.
And right then, from some very remote portion of the mansion, there came indistinctly to my ears what might have been the echo of the very cracking and ripping sound.
No way. He hears the sound from the story in the house.
An uncanny coincidence. A fictional act of violence made real.
How does Roderick react to this?
His reaction at this point is subtle, but incredibly telling, revealing just how deeply he's been listening, how profoundly he knows. His chair turns to face the door, lips trembled as if he were murmuring inaudibly, and his head drops, rocked from side to side with a gentle yet constant and uniform sway.
Oh man, he's not just hearing the story, he's hearing something else entirely, something far more real and terrifying. He's listening for the sound of his inevitable doom.
It seems so. The story continues its grim mirroring. Ethelred then strikes the head of the dragon, which fell before him and gave up his pesky breath, with a shriek so horrid and harsh and withal so piercing.
Dragon's death shriek in the story.
And simultaneously, the narrator hears a low and apparently distant but harsh, protracted, and most unusual screaming or grating sound, the exact counterpart of what my fancy had already conjured up for the dragon's unnatural shriek.
Okay, now it's getting undeniable. The coincidences are no longer just coincidences. They're becoming too precise, too horrifyingly accurate to ignore.
The line between fiction and reality is completely blurring, eroding the narrator's last vestiges of composure.
And then the final terrifying parallel that shatters any remaining pretense of sanity. What happens next in the book?
Ethelred approaches a brazen shield, which fell down at his feet upon the silver floor with a mighty, great, and terrible ringing sound.
Clang goes the shield.
And at that very moment, the narrator becomes aware of a distinct, hollow, metallic, and clangorous, yet apparently muffled reverberation.
He hears the shield fall in the house. It's an auditory mirror, reflecting the fictional story into their grim reality with horrifying clarity. The sounds are no longer distant echoes. They are here.
This is the breaking point, the moment of no return. When the narrator leaps to his feet, utterly unnerved, Roderick, with a sickly smile and gibbering murmur, finally confesses his horrific truth.
What does he say?
His voice is now a desperate shriek. Not hear it. Yes, I hear it, and have heard it long, many minutes, many hours, many days have I heard it. Yet I dared not, oh, pity me, miserable wretch that I am. I dared not speak. We have put her living in the tomb.
He admits it. Oh, God. The full agonizing weight of his guilt and the terrifying reality of his actions crash down upon him and upon the narrator.
It's a confession born of madness, but rooted in horrific truth.
He then agonizingly identifies the sounds he's been hearing, the sounds that mirrored the mad tryst, but were in fact far, far worse.
Yes, he connects them. I now tell you that I heard her first feeble movements in the hollow coffin. I heard them many, many days ago, yet I did not. I dared not speak. And now tonight, Ethelred, ha, ha, the breaking of the hermit's door and the death cry of the dragon and the clangor of the shield, say rather the rending of her coffin and the grating of the iron hinges of her prison and her struggles within the coppered archway of the vault.
Oh my God. That's horrifyingly specific. His madness grants him this awful clarity, connecting the fictional violence to Madeline's desperate, agonizing struggle to escape her living tomb.
It's a moment of pure, unadulterated terror and guilt. And his confession culminates in a final, desperate cry, fueled by terror and an absolute terrifying certainty.
That's the last thing he says.
Oh, whither shall I fly? Will she not be here anon? Is she not hurrying to upbraid me for my haste? Have I not heard her footstep on the stair? Do I not distinguish that heavy and horrible beating of her heart? Madman, I tell you that she now stands without the door.
She now stands without the door. He foresees her immediate arrival, a specter of his own making, a product of his guilt and her suffering, come to claim him.
It's the ultimate manifestation of his fear, finally at his threshold.
And then, What happens? Does the door open?
It does. As if his words themselves possess a terrifying magical power, with the superhuman energy of his utterance, a spell is cast. The huge antique panels threw slowly back upon the instant their ponderous and ebony jaws.
The doors of the chamber fly open, revealing the horrific truth. And is she there?
She is. There, standing on the threshold, is the lofty and enshrouded figure of the Lady Madeline of Usher.
Oh, God.
But she is no mere ghost. Poe describes her with horrifying detail. There was blood upon her white robes and the evidence of some bitter struggle upon every portion of her emaciated frame.
Blood. She fought her way out. She is a ghastly, terrifying vision, the embodiment of her brother's deepest fears and her own unimaginable suffering.
She is living proof of his monstrosity returned from the grave he put her in.
What does she do?
Madeline, trembling and reeling to and fro upon the threshold, lets out a low, moaning cry. Then, with the last vestiges of her strength, falls heavily inward upon the person of her brother.
No.
And in her violent and now final death agonies, bore him to the floor a corpse and a victim to the terrors he had anticipated.
She falls on him and they both die. Just like that.
Just like that. The twins, inseparable in life by their strange, almost psychic bond and shared illness, are reunited in their terrifying demise, their twisted connection sealed in death, collapsing together under the weight of their ancestral curse and Roderick's ultimate folly.
Wow. What an ending for them. What about the narrator?
He gets out. From that chamber, the narrator flees, aghast, a changed man, out into the still raging storm, barely escaping with his life and what's left of the sanity.
I don't blame him. And the house? Does it just stand there empty and haunted?
Not quite. The house, too, has reached its breaking point. It's as if its very purpose has been fulfilled, its inhabitants destroyed. As he crosses the causeway, now lit by a wild light from the full setting and blood-red moon, it shines vividly through that once barely discernible fissure.
The crack, the one from the beginning.
The very same. That crack, this symbol of the Usher's internal and external decay, this subtle flaw that was present from the start, now rapidly widened.
Oh, boy.
Here it comes. And then the ultimate cataclysmic destruction. There came a fierce breath of the whirlwind. The entire orb of the satellite burst at once upon my sight. My brain reeled as I saw the mighty walls rushing asunder. There was a long, tumultuous shouting sound, like the voice of 1,000 waters, and the deep and dank tarn at my feet closed sullenly and silently over the fragments of the House of Usher.
It collapses. Into the tarn. The whole house just disappears.
Utterly consumed, obliterated, leaving no trace. The house, like the family, is gone. The prophecy of his name, the fall of the House of Usher, is fulfilled in the most literal and terrifying way.
A final, definitive end to a lineage and a dwelling that had become one. Wow, what a story.
Absolutely devastating.
So let's recap. What we've learned in this deep dive is how Edgar Allan Poe masterfully crafts a narrative where the psychological decay of a family and the physical disintegration of their ancestral home are inextricably linked, each feeding the other in a terrifying feedback loop.
Yeah, that connection is key.
We've seen the insidious power of hereditary illness, the overwhelming burden of superstition and guilt, and the terror that can arise from deep isolation and an acute morbid sensitivity. It's a testament to how environment and psyche can fuse into a single doomed entity.
And this isn't just a story about a haunted house, is it? It's a profound exploration of how our environment can profoundly shape our sanity, how deeply ingrained fears and generational curses can become self-fulfilling prophecies.
And that fragile, almost permeable line between perceived reality and utter madness.
Exactly. It forces you to question the very fabric of influence. Can our surroundings truly mold our minds, our very destinies, and even drive us to destruction? Poe challenges us to consider if we are truly masters of our own minds, or if we are merely products of our environment and lineage.
Heavy stuff. So what does this all mean for you, listening right now? Consider the narrator's perspective. He is our only window into this terrifying world, and he himself admits he was infected by the Usher madness.
Right. How reliable is he?
How much of the horror he describes, the pestilent and mystic vapor, Roderick's theory of sentience, and even the mad hilarity in his eyes, is a direct objective reality, and how much is filtered, amplified, or even created through his own increasing infection by the Usher's pervasive gloom.
Yeah, that's a really important question that echoes through many of Poe's works. What does this suggest about the reliability of perception when faced with overwhelming dread and isolation?
Can a place, a family, or even a deep-seated fear truly drive one to madness? Or does the madness merely perceive and interpret the existing horrors in an intensified way?
And maybe think about this. What other stories or even real-world situations resonate with the chilling idea that our environment can literally drive us to madness or even destruction? Something to chew on long after the last word of this deep dive fades.